it's interesting because just yesterday we were talking about Justin Bieber's money troubles, him allegedly being so broke that he had to sell his entire music catalog back in 2022 to recoup his funds. But there is an update because Justin Bieber has released an official statement regarding the speculation about his creepy adult-child friendship with Diddy over the years. Because, if you didn't know already, Diddy is currently on trial, and a lot of people have speculated and theorized that Justin Bieber is one of Diddy's victims. However, Justin Bieber has never come out and said that, and he possibly has hinted at being abused by people in the music industry, but never explicitly named anyone, including Diddy.
I feel like just from the 30,000 foot view, I am not following the trial super closely, and maybe it's just my own bias from the accounts that I follow, but I don't feel like Cassie is coming out of this looking that good, nor do I feel like the U.S. government is coming out of this looking all that good, as most of it just looks like typical Hollywood degeneracy and not a whole lot of evil sex trafficking. But I could be wrong. I'm just giving you my kind of armchair, 30,000 foot view. I'm not paying super close attention, but none of the headlines are doing a whole lot to sway people to the idea that he's as evil as people are saying he is. Even if he is.
Interesting because all of the charges against Diddy and all of these accusations that came forward kind of exploded into this giant mess where it's impossible to go through it all and ascertain the facts. So if you look at it from the pop culture view, what the narrative is around Diddy, people genuinely believe Diddy is on trial for like abusing Justin Bieber right now. Like they genuinely have no idea, which is why Justin Bieber felt the need to clarify to his own audience that he is not one of Diddy's victims. This was a statement that his team gave to People magazine, saying, although Justin is not among Sean Combs' victims, there are individuals who were genuinely harmed by him. Shifting focus away from this reality detracts from the justice these victims rightfully deserve. And that's the beginning and the end of it. So a lot of people don't know what to make of this because last year there was an anonymous inside source from Justin's life who told publications at the time that he was opening up to his friend group about what happened to him with Diddy. They said at the time he was reacting to his own personal circumstance. The last thing Justin wants to do is relive or even discuss his complicated friendship with Diddy, but he's finally breaking his silence to his friends about his nightmare experience and the private hell that it's caused him. There was no validation that this inside source actually knows Justin or is in his inner circle. That was a rumor that started circulating last year. And at the same time, there were a couple of clips of Justin Bieber as a minor with Diddy on camera, and their interactions added more fuel to the fire because you can tell that Justin is uncomfortable or that he shouldn't have been allowed to hang out with Diddy one-on-one.
I will, before we get into that, like, what I realized when I read this was, like, it's not going to matter. People are just going to interpret it whatever way they want anyway. They say, well, he can't speak out about it. It's too traumatizing. Like, no, this wasn't going to actually sway anybody who's dead set in their belief one way or the other, whatever way that is not going to be moved in any way by what he says here because most people have dug their heels in, and they're going to, the side that agrees with him is going to be like, see, there's the proof. I always knew it. The other side is going to say, well, it's because he was traumatized and he just doesn't want to talk about it.
Or that he's being threatened, or there is some conflict behind the scenes where he's being pressured into silence and he's being pressured to issue a denial. If you want to believe that Justin is one of Diddy's victims, you're going to continue believing that. I don't know if I have a stance one way or the other, but I know for a fact that what occurred in these two clips
is weird as hell.
Weird as hell and shouldn't have happened. Yeah. So this was the first one where you see 14-year-old Justin Bieber with Diddy back at the time when Usher was Justin's mentor. Diddy also mentored Usher, so it was like kind of a succession line that people saw happening. And in this clip, Diddy says that they're about to spend 48 hours together getting up to undisclosed activities.
Justin, you ever seen the movie 48 Hours? Right now, he's having 48 hours with Diddy, him and his boy. They're having the times of their lives, like, where we hanging out and what we doing. We can't really disclose.
Most celebrities are bad without a script. You ever notice that? Like, most of them don't off the cuff well.
Yeah.
Let's continue.
But it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream.
What does that mean?
I have been given custody of him. He signed to Usher.
I'm signed to Usher.
I had legal guardianship of Usher when he did his first album. I did Usher's first album. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So and we gonna go full crazy.
I'm going crazy.
Justin.
I guess so.
the-
There's Justin just uncomfortably laughing, but he probably did feel like he was living his dream by, hanging out with these huge stars that he idolized.
Even at that time, I'm like, did any Gen Z or millennial youth like I'm an older millennial. Did anybody his age actually ever dream of hanging out with Diddy?
Well, I
don't know.
Justin has always been like super into music, and he definitely was a huge fan of Usher. That's why he wanted to be mentored and signed by Usher. So I assume that he would feel the same way about Diddy at the time.
I imagine his hat collection cost a lot to replace when he cut his hair.
Thank you.
Thank you. They were all too big after that. Hold,
This
please.
is our normal
tonal issues. That's okay. It's okay. It's okay, guys.
Justin Bieber is an expert at dancing through the pain.
He
So this
is.
is a second clip where Justin is slightly older but still a minor, and Diddy is asking him why they don't hang out anymore, and Justin sounds very uncomfortable.
Good, selling out arenas and everything. Starting to act different, huh? You ain't been calling me and hanging out the way we used to hang out.
Well, I mean, you try to get in contact with me, through all my, partners and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But you never really got my number, so.
Right, okay.
My number?
Yeah, everything's.
Diddy is kind of accusing Justin of getting a big ego and not reaching out enough.
If they were the same age, I would interpret that as someone just being kind of joking around and the other person not getting the joke, but they're not the same age, which changes the context.
Obviously, yeah. I don't think it's normal for a grown adult person to consider themselves friends with a child unless it's like your cousin.
Drake, don't be texting Millie Bobby Brown when she's 13.
No, I'm sorry. That's just not ever acceptable for a grown-ass adult to be friends with a child. That you're not friends. You're probably using that person for clout or something else. There's some ulterior motive going on, and everyone can tell that, he shouldn't have been in those situations. His mom should have protected him more from those types of situations, especially knowing that Usher has talked about his time under guardianship with Diddy. He said that he witnessed actual orgies, like sexual situations, while he was a child when he was living with Diddy as a teenager. So that, just knowing that, I wouldn't rule it out as a possibility for what happened between Justin and Diddy. But if we're to believe Justin's actual words, that none of that ever happened.
Yeah.
He's not a victim. So
even if nothing happened between them, it doesn't mean he didn't see weird shit while he was there, right?
Definitely.
And the creepier part is they actually make it weirder when somebody, like a hazing ritual, somebody that's not normally here, we're gonna break him in by making it weird as fuck in the most ungood, bad way, right?
Right. Yeah. So now there is a new scoop from TMZ's documentary, What Happened to Justin Bieber, where they're saying his former friends are worried Justin is in a cult and that he is hypnotized under the influence of this Los Angeles pastor, Judah Smith, who officiated his wedding with Hailey Bieber years ago. This guy definitely does raise red flags to me. He just seems like a weirdo.
Oh, I didn't realize that this guy officiated their wedding. I mean, I read all about this guy, and I for some reason I thought he came into his life later than that, but I guess they didn't get married that long ago, so.
TMZ says Justin is shrinking his circle, and some people who have been cut out say he's being isolated from his longtime friends because he's in a cult and his church pastor is wielding a ton of influence over his life. But the pastor, Judah Smith, says that's bogus. Justin is no longer friends with Ryan Good, the best man at his wedding, and the creative director of his fashion brand, Drew House. And sources say it has to do with Ryan Good leaving Justin's church, which is called Church Home. That is Judah Smith's church.
We were told that they confronted Scooter Braun, who is Jewish, about not believing in Jesus, and were badgering Ryan about his sex life.
Right. So Ryan Good left Church Home when he believed it was veering in a cult-like direction. Judah Smith, however, said, "What kind of a cult only meets once a month?" That's not really a great retort. Some comments
if anything, somebody might say that your blasé attitude about the accusation is a little bit suspect. But at the same time, also, if it's not true, you're not going to dignify it with a serious response. So,
I suppose. Some comments from Justin's business manager and fellow Church Home member also raised red flags. We get into it in the documentary exploring Justin's mental health, marriage, money troubles, and career. Definitely agree, without knowing all of the details, that Judah Smith seems like a weirdo and he just looks untrustworthy. That's completely my prejudiced opinion of this guy.
Is it the leather jacket?
It's the glasses and, I do mistrust. Hey. It's the specific, it's his specific look.
Fine.
Okay? Like, obviously mega church pastors are stereotypically untrustworthy and self-interested people, and I think that especially if you are a pastor of a Hollywood megachurch where there are people of massive influence and wealth in your congregation, you are especially incentivized to be in a controlling role in their lives. There are plenty of examples of celebrities who have their own personal spiritual advisors or gurus that have a malevolent influence over them. Michael Jackson is another example of that. I believe it was Rabbi Shmuley, actually, who was his spiritual advisor for a while. And you can call yourself that, but I think that they overstep bounds and entwine themselves in a celebrity's life so that they can benefit from their wealth and their influence as a result, not to actually help them, in a personal way that you would expect from a pastor or a priest,
Yeah, it actually, the idea that a pastor, like, you would have to be an extremely good and selfless person to help somebody of such immense fame and power without like being pulled into the idea of getting something for yourself.
Right.
Like that requires a very specific type of person who truly is giving and not somebody who, like, even if they don't do it consciously and trying to get something out of it without realizing it. And that's giving the most charitable definition of that, not even, taking into account the type of person that's just self-serving and wants to do that.
Yeah, so I'm planning on looking further into Judah Smith and his personal history and the other celebrities that he is wielding influence over, allegedly, because he definitely seems like someone who is not to be trusted in Justin's life.
I remember the old interviews with Ryan Good talking about how it was one of the challenges was like that it was just like growing up, Justin was just in rooms with adults all the time, and that it was a hard road because for him it was like he's a kid, and that wasn't framed in a negative way. It was more framed in like there's this big machine around him making everything work. But it's like, even when you phrase it that way, it could be taken in nefarious terms depending on who's looking at it.
Well, the problem that results is that while he's a kid in this really unique situation surrounded by adults constantly, he's given all the freedoms of an adult with none of the responsibilities and none of the actual control, of course, because he just doesn't have a legal emancipation, right? So then he's treated like an adult as a kid, and then as an adult, he's treated like a kid.
Yeah.
So he probably feels like he's trapped in this never-ending cycle of trying to free himself from a circle of people that is constantly, like, has this high turnover rate, and he's trying to cut out people who seem toxic or don't understand him.
Yeah.
Or trying to control him, but
Given
it's
how
almost
successful-
impossible to achieve.
Like, again, given that I have not investigated like TMZ has, but given how successful he was for so long, it does seem to be to his own detriment to cut out the people that were with him earlier, because given how bad it could have gone, it seemed like things with like Scooter Braun, Ryan Good, and that team, at the very least, was when he was most successful. And it was towards the end when things started to go wrong financially for him after he hit adulthood.
Right.
Again, it could come out tomorrow that they're all serial killers, and it's like I don't know, but it just feels like he's not on a better path now. But he also needs more time for that to bear itself out. Like, we were looking at the story yesterday. He's in Switzerland or something recording music. Iceland recording music. I just laugh. I'm like, why you got to go to Iceland and record it, bro? You can record it at home. I thought you were broke. Like,
yeah,
what's up with that?
How are you paying for the Airbnb?
But the yeah, because I was like, they said like they're at his place. I'm like, if he owns a place in Iceland, how broke is he?
Yeah.
But the point is, it's like if he can find a way to make new music and build another. Plenty of artists have like chapters in their career. Taylor Swift kind of commodified the idea of an era, but plenty of artists have like a run, then they come back and they have another run. And it would lead to new music and new ideas that could be very beneficial to him. I don't know if he has the business acumen to do it. Like, in lieu of being the business person that a Taylor Swift is, you need to have somebody who's cutthroat and on your side. And it's like, if you really think about what it's like to reach that level of money, who do you actually trust? Like, unless you grew up with somebody who just happens to end up being like a world-class financier, how do you actually ever truly trust someone with that much money?
I think that one reason Taylor Swift is such a shrewd businesswoman and at least seems to have her operation on lock in every way is because of the influence of her dad.
Yeah.
You know, she was raised in a wealthy family that had financial security. Her dad was heavily involved in her rise as an artist and made sure she was informed about the legalities of everything. And he held a stake in the record label that originally signed her. Whereas
that's a
Justin
huge
Bieber
head start.
Right. Justin Bieber is open about the fact that he was raised lower middle class with a single mom who probably, of course, like, didn't have a full understanding of the industry that he was entering into, and just thought, like, this is our big break.
It's like people who win the lottery.
And like, we'll just trust the people who are excitedly telling us about all of our opportunities and sign the dotted line.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.